Hi there, my name is Ryan. I'm an interpreter here at Sugar Pine Point State Park on the west shore of Lake Tahoe in California. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the tree ecology here and how the forest has responded to having been clear-cut in the late 18th century, and I'll introduce you to a couple of our native species. So people are often surprised that the Lake Tahoe area was clear-cut, being that it's so pristine and beautiful. However, it is still in active recovery, and the most dominant species now is the Jeffrey pine, and that's largely due to the conditions left by clear cutting and also by fire suppression. Previously there was more biodiversity here, and now it's become a little bit more homogeneous. You're likely to find pure stands of Jeffrey pines more often than you would have been likely to in the past. So first I'll introduce you to the sugar pine, the namesake of this park. And the pine cones are the largest of any pine species in the world, sometimes growing up to about 14 inches long. So this one's actually fairly modest compared to some of the ones I've seen in the park, but still huge. And compared and contrasted with the Jeffrey pine here to my right. So the Jeffrey pine is often nicknamed the gentle Jeffrey due to the pine cones, and you're really able to handle the pine cone quite easily without poking yourself because the spikes point downwards. So that's another easy way to differentiate the two, just looking at the pine cones. Another way you can differentiate them is by looking at their pine needles. So here we have, on my right, the pine needles from a sugar pine. And you can see there's 5 needles there, and they're all about 2 inches long or so, whereas the Jeffrey pine to my left has 3 needles and are about 5 to 6 inches long. And again, the Jeffrey pine has become the most dominant species here in Tahoe due to the conditions left by clear cutting. However, the Tahoe forest is extremely resilient, and for that reason remains beautiful and adaptable despite the changes that were imposed on it in the late 18th century. In another video, I'll introduce you to the incense cedar, the lodgepole pine, and talk about how those have responded to changes imposed.